Welcome to the Ekhoing Vitality podcast with Josh and Taylor. I'm Josh, a Czech practitioner, and I help you rediscover your vitality.
And I'm Taylor Blakely, your integrative nutritionist with a passion for making wellness simple, sustainable, and fun.
We've been through it all. Back pain, gut issues, the stress of starting over after big moves, and finding our way through life's curveballs.
Now we're here to share real stories, proven tools, and plenty of laughs to help you create a life full of vitality.
So if you're ready to take control of your health and thrive,
let's dive into today's episode, and don't forget, hit subscribe so you can join us every week. Welcome back to Ekhoing Vitality podcast with your hosts, myself, Taylor, and my husband, Josh. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this topic today, since this is an area that I work with my clients a lot on, and it's just one of those things that needs to be talked about on a regular basis. So menstrual products, what do we use? You know, what products are safe? What products are not necessarily safe? Those are some of the questions that I ask my clients. What are you using? Especially if they're having issues and whatnot. So that's what we're going to be getting into. And Josh is going to help me through this podcast and maybe ask some questions or drop some knowledge out there for us regarding some of these things. So he is very knowledgeable in the women's health. So if you didn't know that, you do now.
I'm basically a woman.
No, no, definitely not. We'll just kind of get into it today. And this one, you know, if you have questions outside of what we talk about, feel free to message me. I would love that. But yeah, we'll just get into it. How about that?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. Why should we choose safer options? Well, number one is if we're having issues, if we're having menstrual problems from PCOS even, there's endometriosis, there's all of these things, but even as simple as like PMS, there's certain menstrual products out there that do not promote health and well-being. There's a lot of products out there that really make it uncomfortable for us. You know, if you have a lot of cramping, if you have a lot of irritability during this time, and it's no fun when your menstrual product is just not working for you. So there's many different options, safe options. I love being able to help guide women into using safer options for them, depending on like what's going on. So if you're somebody who has really painful periods, that seems to be one of the most common, is that it's just really painful, and trying to use tampons.
Tampons?
Yes, that's what Josh likes to call them, tampons. And it's funny because I don't even use them. I have not used tampons probably since I was in high school. And honestly, it was because my menstrual cycle was literally just so painful. If you listen to my other podcast or our other podcast the other day, you would know why I don't use tampons, and I still don't, even though I feel so much better than I used to. But if you're just having so much inflammation in your vagina, in your uterus, like anything that you're going to be inserting causing more discomfort, it's just not worth it. So what else do we use? You know, there's different mentalities around using menstrual products, or some women don't even use menstrual products. So it's just, there's an array of options out there for women.
Is that called free bleeding?
Yes.
Or something? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is called free bleeding. I have not experienced that.
On purpose, at least?
Yeah, not on purpose. But after all these years now, I know my cycle, you know, with the exception of this year, like when it's going to happen. Like I'm very regular. So I really very rarely get surprised when it comes. So I'm like, well, you know, it's the day of, it's happening. But anyways, yeah, free bleeding is definitely an interesting style, and I'm all for it.
It's primal.
It is primal. Like it's one of the most primal methods out there. I am not that brave enough to give it a go. But, like why? So before I get into the different products, I want to talk about why. Like, why should we use safer options? So sometimes tampons work for some women, and sometimes they don't work for another woman. Some women don't enjoy using pads, but some women, that's all they like to use, and that's perfectly fine. And so, however, conventional products that you find in the grocery store, everything from Tampax to honey. So everything from Tampax to, oh gosh, I can't even remember the names of them now. Like there's so many. Kotex. Kotex is another one out there. Those, unfortunately, are not very safe options, especially if you are experiencing any sort of hormonal issue in your cycle. There's a lot of chemicals, lots of synthetic materials used in making these products, and just with everything that Josh and I teach on is how do we remove chemicals in your life. So we actually do a toxin assessment. What is your toxin load? And menstrual products is one of them. So if you're using menstrual products that have a lot of toxins, it's usually one of the first things to go. Like, you gotta get rid of it,
Yeah.
So,
we'll go into like what are some common chemicals and byproducts that are in these products. We'll explain them a little bit, how they affect you. Paul would like to tell a story.
Okay. Lots of stories.
Well, it's the first story.
Well, the last podcast, if you listen to that one, we got all the stories from Josh.
The first time I ever heard of a tampon, which actually I forget which movie this woman calls it a tampon. It's that funny girl. She's kind of bigger. She plays in the movie called Tammy, I think.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
Melissa McBride, is that her name?
Yeah, I think she calls him a tampon. Oh. Anyways, I think the first time I heard of a tampon was from She's the Man.
Oh.
When she's trying to, she's the man with the man that binds, and she's got tampons, and Channing Tatum walks in the room, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then she's puts the tampon in her nose. Or something like that.
Yeah, because she had a bloody nose or whatever.
Yeah, or she gives it to him or something like that.
Yeah. She's like, "Hey, these are perfect for bloody noses." And
yeah, nice cover up.
Walks in on him one day with a tampon in his nose.
Yeah, anyways, good movie.
That's classic. One of the best movies. We'll watch that one every now and again when that happens, when we see it. But yeah, good movie.
Wait, when that happens? No.
What?
No, we'll watch the movie when we feel like it, not when bloody noses happen.
No. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not as clear, I guess, in my words. So hopefully the rest of this podcast works out well. So, anyways, going back to products and why it is ideal to use products that are safer for the body. So, there are these things called endocrine disruptors in certain chemicals and that are actually found in menstrual products, especially tampons and pads, and even other products too. Like douching, whatever you do, don't ever douche. Like, you see those products on the shelf next to the tampon and pad aisle, just do not use them. They're full of fragrances, full of chemicals. It disrupts the pH of the vagina. And that is one of the worst things that you can do to your vagina. It's not good. Anything with fragrance in it. So there's a lot of products that do have fragrance in them. And we don't need to make us smell good. I'm doing air quotes down there. There's going to always be a distinct smell down there. Now, if it smells like abnormally bad or, fishy or whatever, and that's an infection. So you actually got to go get that addressed, either at the doctor's or do some like natural at-home remedies, like how do you reduce the amount of bacteria that you have down there, because it's an overgrowth of bad bacteria.
And so where they're saying something smells fishy around here comes from, and then you go investigate.
Oh, really? Is that what happens? Oh my gosh. I knew he would say some funny stuff in this podcast. So anyways,
maybe it's funny, I don't know.
Getting back on track, you want to make sure that you're not putting anything up there that disrupts the pH balance and the bacteria, because there's a delicate balance in there that if it's one far this way or one far the other way, like alkaline, you're going,
acid, acidic.
Yes, you want it to be acidic. If it's,
I do.
Everybody does. Everybody does. Every woman, every man wants it to be perfectly balanced.
I want that acidic.
Yes. Yeah, everyone does. Let me tell you. That is where you will feel the healthiest. You'll have less chances of those infections, less chances of UTIs, less chances of yeast infections.
So what you're saying is an acidic pussy is what everyone needs.
Yes, I guess that is what I'm saying. Yes. So
take notes, everyone. Take notes. Write that down.
Yes, that is what you want. Otherwise, it is just a breeding ground for bad things to happen. And you don't want that. You don't want that at all. Like, it is some of the worst things for you. So...
And your man.
Yeah.
Or a woman.
Yeah, well, not only that, it's like embarrassing. Like, I remember having a couple infections and being like, what is happening? I remember in my early 20s, and this was before I really knew anything. And I remember being in high school feeling like, things were like weird, even though they were completely normal, like discharge, like all of these things are really normal. But I just remember being so embarrassed about that. Like, why do I didn't know. I didn't know what my cycle actually was about and what was to come during each cycle and everything in between, from period to the middle of your cycle to the end of your cycle to until your next period. So, but I remember buying, being influenced by marketing and whatever else for all of these companies preying on women who are embarrassed about like their bodily functions. When there's like so many easy ways to make sure that we don't smell and we don't have that embarrassing odor. And
the easiest way to not smell or have odor is do nothing. Like douching, as far as douching goes.
Yeah, like you really don't have to do much.
Yeah.
Like there's like it's a self-cleaning or a self-cleaning machine, not organism. It's a self-cleaning machine down there. So like you don't have to do much. So anyways, I remember going to the store thinking that I needed to buy like something Eve's brand's feminine wash. Like that's what there's so many different kinds. Vagisil, like soap, there's like all of these things on the shelf. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I guess I need that. And there's fragrance, like they smell good, But those were some of the worst things to ever put down there. Like you don't need soap. Like the best thing to do is actually just wash with water, rinse. And that's all you need to do. Like unless you really truly do have an infection, you got to go get that addressed. But otherwise like you don't have to do much.
Yeah, just splash a little water on that thing.
Yeah, just splash some water on it. That's all you need to do. So putting certain products on or inside the vagina is like, on is let me reword this. The outside of the vagina is technically called the vulva. So if you put anything on the vulva, that is still receiving some of these chemicals. It's some of the thinnest skin and most delicate skin down there, so it can absorb things very quickly into the body.
We'll put links to pictures so you can see in the show notes.
No, we won't. Just look for yourself if you have one. And if you feel comfortable sharing with your partner, show them too.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that the products that you're putting on and in are not leaching chemicals into the body. So hopefully I made that very clear. Chemicals,
that was very clear.
Very, very clear. You know, there's so many icky things. Don't be douching. Don't be putting fragrant like type soaps in or on the area down there. Like, just don't.
Yeah, just don't.
Just don't.
Just don't. Let's talk about a common chemical that is in many products.
Okay. So very, very common, especially in pads and tampons, is BPA.
BPA, what is that?
I'm sure you guys have heard that term.
BPA, yeah.
It's a type of plastic, right? You want to explain about it?
Yeah, it stands for bisphenol A. Yeah, it makes plastic and it's not good for your health. Obviously, there's a lot of products that actually will say BPA free, and I don't remember the specifics, but I do know we gotta love marketers. BPA free does not mean it is safe still, because there are tons of other types of plastics. But I cannot remember the acronyms for each of them, which just goes to show the importance of using some of the products that Taylor will share here in a little bit. But I want to share just a couple things to clarify some things that Taylor was saying. The endocrine system, for one, Taylor mentioned the endocrine system. That is essentially your hormonal system. And something like BPA or all these other things that they put in these products are endocrine disruptors, meaning it will throw your hormonal system out of balance.
And we want to avoid that as much as possible when you're trying to regulate your system.
Hormonal disruption and reproductive health. BPA mimics estrogen and binds to estrogen receptors, androgen receptors, and thyroid hormone receptors, disrupting normal hormonal signaling. And obviously this will lead to reproductive health issues in women, including menstrual irregularities, early puberty, and infertility, which is huge nowadays. And then lastly, BPA exposure is also associated with an increased risk of hormone-dependent cancers, such as breast cancer, where BPA stimulates tumor growth in estrogen receptor-positive cancer cells. And I'm reading this from a study. I forget what the study is called. Let me see. The potential mechanisms of bisphenol A, BPA, contributing to human disease. So that is what the study is. So it's a serious thing. And while a lot of products are becoming aware of it, there are a lot of products that are not.
So I wanted to just touch base on a couple points you mentioned in there. So just because a product says BPA free, like Josh was saying, isn't necessarily any safer. They just replace it with another plastic chemical product that is not as regulated as BPA. So BPA just got super known for how harmful it is, and then they'll just keep replacing with other products until it's like BPA and then all these other like chemical like free products. And that's why the list just keeps getting bigger and bigger on healthy products, because it just keeps getting more and more known that these products are not safe for the body. And I also wanted to touch on, you said it also mimics estrogen in the body, which can cause a lot of other hormonal disruptions. And so what that can look like is if a woman is estrogen dominant, there's a whole lot of symptoms that can arise being estrogen dominant, such as like headaches, heavy periods, unable to have the proper balance of estrogen and progesterone. So then in your later phase of your cycle, like you'll end up feeling very anxious because progesterone is a more soothing, calming hormone. But when estrogen is just so dominant, like you're just ridden with anxiety. So when those people who have anxiety or even depression, like there's a lot of a lot of unwanted symptoms associated with BPA. And that is why it's super, super, super important to avoid as much as possible drinking from bottled water, because most bottled water are not BPA free.
Yeah, plastic bottled water.
Yes, plastic water bottles.
Because Voss does make a glass bottle, which is nice. But even from soda cans, we were just learning today, this guy was doing an experiment with a can, and they actually line soda cans with plastic, literal plastic.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to show you guys, but maybe look it up, like plastic in cans experiment or something like that.
Yeah, that would be perfect to look at, because it's true. Like there's just plastic in cans. It may not be in all cans, but it was definitely in like what was it, Coke? A Coke
Yeah,
bottle?
I think it was a Coke can. He melted all the metal away via some kind of chemical reaction, and what was left was like a plastic balloon.
Yeah, it was wild to see. Like, how in the world is there still plastic in cans?
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and these plastics, by the way, that Taylor's talking about, besides BPA, that are like estrogen mimicking, would be called xenoestrogens, which come from pretty much all plastic products as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So just eliminating plastic in general is a good idea, as best as you can, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we can just do what we can, with the knowledge that we have, which is why I'm talking about this product or this subject right now, because menstrual products, they have plastic in it, and it's like, okay, we just keep like bombarding our bodies with plastic on a regular basis. And when you're trying to get your menstrual health in order and you're still using period products like Tampax and Kotex, and it's just not helping you, it's not serving you in any way. And so BPA is only one ingredient in menstrual products, and it's it's so sad. Like, I hate that it's in there. So many other synthetic products too in these products, menstrual products here. So another chemical that is found in these products are PFAS, PFAS, forever chemicals, and kind of the same thing. Like, it just attacks the endocrine system, just causing havoc on these hormone pathways in the body. It really disrupts that system there. What?
Oh, I'm just glad you spelled PFAS, because it sounds like P-fuzz.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, PFAS.
Yeah, we don't need P-fuzz in our life. That's gross. Gross. So yeah, PFAS, you can look it up. It is forever chemicals.
Yeah.
Don't look up the one Josh just suggested.
Yeah, don't look up P-fuzz.
There's also, so another thing that's in, and I'm just going to list them real quick, and you can, understand why this is an issue. So there's metals, heavy metals in products. And the sad thing is, unfortunately, in some of the products that I do recommend, they have recently done some research on those products. But there's heavy metals like arsenic and lead. How unfortunate is that? Those are some of there's so many issues that are causing a lot of health problems in our nation, and it's heavy metals, parasites, chemicals, all of those things. Yeah, those are just causing so many issues in our health, and unfortunately, there's heavy metals in most pads and tampons, and so it's just really unfortunate. We're always doing our own metal detoxing. Sometimes we'll do a parasite detox to kind of help our bodies like function well and be able to detox on its own, because that's what the body does. But sometimes when we're bombarded with all of these chemicals and, you know, even natural things like metals and, you know, arsenic and lead, like cause issues in the body. So anyways, there's also fragrance chemicals in tampons and even like other products, like I mentioned before, like the douching products and the feminine wash products. Like there's fragrance in there that's just not needed. Like you don't need your vulva to smell like roses, because it's not a rose. It needs to smell like a vulva, and you'll know when you get your vulva nice balanced pH, going back to that topic there, you'll know what's like healthy for you. You won't really have issues. You won't have like anything super smelly down there. Your discharge will be normal. Like everything just will feel so much better. No itchiness, you know. So a lot of these things, like itchiness too, can be caused by fragrance. Like there's a lot of people who are very sensitive to fragrance, and that's why they have, you know, unscented products, because some people are so sensitive. So you don't want to use those things down there. Like I said, you don't want it to smell like roses. It's not a rose. It's not a lilac bush. It's, you know, you got a bush, but it doesn't need to smell like a lilac bush. You know what I mean?
You could refer to it as a lilac bush, though.
That is true.
And a flower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fun fact. One of my aunties growing up, she always called it a flower, called the vagina or like the vulva a flower, because it's just like this delicate little thing that you want to keep nice. And that's just always, like, I still have the tendency and the urge to say flower versus vagina, just because it is so ingrained in my mind that it is a flower.
Yeah, that's what your aunt taught you as a young gal.
And I went years, even into adulthood, just calling it that. And so when I started doing more work around women's health, I'm like, okay, well, here's all of these different parts, and I need to refer to them. So, yeah, and it's just an interesting thing, because I want to say flower, even though I'm talking about the vulva. And if I say flower, that's just kind of all encompassing of that area. So
yeah.
Anyways, fun fact.
I feel like that's a good, well, I don't know, I guess it depends on how you want to teach people and parent, but, you know, if you're teaching your kids like your aunt did for you, like it's just a more friendly word.
Yeah, it's
that
more
some
friendly.
people could use, you know.
It is more friendly, but I have thoughts on that. Like it needs to be taught in the most body anatomy way.
Yeah, like just what it is.
Just what it is.
Right.
Yeah, because it's important to understand, like, if there is issues growing up, like, hey, like, I itch. Okay, where do you itch? You know, for a young girl. And it can be so embarrassing for little girls to understand, like, what all of that is. And if it's just all encompassing as a flower, you know, like, it's really hard to understand. So it just keeps young girls aware of what their body is.
Yeah.
Because for years, like, women, like, centuries, like, it had not been acceptable to, like, you know, express sexuality, you know, like, that's a whole other topic, but like, there's so many things. So anyways, those are just a few points on my beliefs in that way.
Yeah.
So anyways, moving on. There's a few other chemicals too in conventional period products, but we won't necessarily get into them because I feel like, you know, now, just through this podcast up until this point, that there's just not a lot of good things in pads and tampons, and So now I think I want to go into what does help,
What does help?
What does help? I feel like that's not a complete sentence, or it doesn't make sense. What does help? But it does. So, anyways. Okay, so there are so many different products out there now, like we kind of mentioned before, what actually helps your cycle. So there's
Swaps?
Yeah. Here are some swaps. Here are some swaps, if I can talk. I did put a cough drop in my mouth earlier when I needed to clear my throat, so.
Yeah. Well, welcome to an episode of Swap This for That.
Thank you, Josh, my
Absolutely,
co-host.
Taylor. We're so excited to hear what you have to say about products that women can swap out to create a healthy flower.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And body.
And body. Mind, body, soul connection,
Yeah.
So here we go. So for pads and tampons, if you are a user of either of those, it's always highly recommended to go for a product that's 100% organic. So you want to make sure that it's 100% organic because it's going in your body or it's going on your vulva. Like I said before, there's a lot of chemicals that leach into your system, so you don't want that.
Yeah, imagine just taking some plastic and putting it right up in there.
Yeah.
Or eating plastic. Like, either way, it's going in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you eat it, put it up your bunghole, or put it up your vagina. Oh I'm just saying, any way it goes in your body. It
in all the holes.
In all the holes, and it gets absorbed into your system. And it's going to affect it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
Okay,
so,
here's a good example that doesn't relate
Okay.
to period products that maybe people will understand.
Okay.
And it's a little less extreme than pads have metal in it. Oh, imagine putting lead right up in there. Like, you wouldn't do that. Or, another good example is a lot of people drink coffee. And a lot of people put cream with their coffee. And cream is popularly used from the product called Coffee Mate. And if you look at the ingredients of Coffee Mate, it is vegetable oil. And so I always tell people, why don't you just put a shot of vegetable oil in your coffee? Because you would not do that. Because marketers aren't putting vegetable oil on the front of the freaking bottle. Just like they're not putting, this tampon has lead in it. This product has xenoestrogens in it,
Yeah. You know what cracks me up about marketing? So I always say, I think it's Tampax is very known for this.
Tampax Girls.
Yeah, or the Tampax Sport or whatever, because apparently it stays better because when you're out there, getting all crazy and active and you're running and sprinting, that there's a chance that it's going to fall out, which is not the case.
Who knows what's going to happen down there?
So I'm literally rolling my eyes right now because it is so ridiculous. That's not how it works. It's not going to just fall out. And if it does, you might want to go to a pelvic floor specialist if that's the case. But typically, it's not going to just fall out. But
I'm talking about a tampon's not going to fall out?
Yeah, it's not.
Oh,
It's pretty up there. So it just cracks me up that there's a Tampax Sport. So that's marketed to all the sporty girls who, are active. Yeah. But I'm how many women are truly going that hard on their period? Not many women.
Yeah,
and I'll
true.
get into this in other podcasts talking about the phases of the cycle and the things that you can do to help promote balance and harmony in your cycle through the phases, because there's 4 different types or 4 different phases.
Yeah.
So anyways,
the tampon's strapped in there like a solid roller coaster ride. You know what I mean? If you're riding a roller coaster, you're strapped
You're
in.
strapped in real good.
You're not going anywhere. So if you're running on your period, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about
It's
it.
a safe roller coaster ride.
And I'm not saying that you can't work out or exercise like on your period. It's usually just not as common or typical.
Yeah. A quick note, why is your energy's probably just a little lower, right? But we'll get into it in another day.
Crampy,
Yeah.
So anyways, you just want to make sure that these products are organic, and then you may actually have to do a little bit of research and look at the products that were tested high in heavy metals, because there's some that were safe, and I cannot remember them right now.
Some brands that were safe? Is Cora one?
I think Cora and Lola were safe. I looked it up before, and I can't remember, but I thought that Cora, which is what I use, is safe, which is why I kept buying it.
Also, which is the only one I know, really. Cora and Lola.
Lola, yeah.
Well, I know Tampax. Heard of that.
Yeah, all the conventional ones. Yeah. And so, anyways, you just want to make sure that they're good, they've been tested. You just want to make sure. You know?
A lot of times you can go on their website or even call them and you can ask, like, hey, has your product been tested for metal? Or some people will put the testing results on their website. For example, we have this product called She Legit, and She Legit is known to have some metals in it sometimes, and but some companies will do testing, lab testing, and they'll
third-party testing.
Third-party testing, and it'll be like, here's the study, here's like, how much metal was in it or not in it, and so the transparency is nice.
Yeah, you want to look for transparent companies who are doing good in the world. There's Cora and Lola, they donate a lot of their products too, which is why I really appreciate those companies. And I believe both of them are actually founded by women, which is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Because like Tampax and Kotex, I'm pretty sure, their CEOs are men who their bottom line is just money the whole time, which is why they have certain marketing done to,
show me the money.
Yeah, and obviously as a business, you want to make sure that your bottom line is good, but there's intentions behind it. So Lola and Cora, I've done so much research on their products. They want to make sure and ensure that young girls in general, women, have products, even over in other countries. Like, that's what's so cool about these products, and
they're
that's
B
why I
Corps,
start
right,
them.
too?
Yeah.
And Could you explain what a B Corps is?
I want to say, let's look it up real quick
before. It's like a non-profit or something?
They do a lot of good in the world. So whether that their purpose is like donating a certain percentage, there's like companies out there who donate 10% of whatever their profits are. But yeah, if you can look that up. While you're doing that, just as a side note, I wanted to mention this because I thought this was fascinating when I looked this up. So a typical woman's lifespan will go through 9,000 to 10,000 tampons within their menstruating years. Wow. That's a lot of tampons. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because there's a couple other period products that I want to talk about as other safe options. So 9,000 to 10,000 tampons in their lifetime.
That's a lot of...
And if you're using Tampax or Kotex or any other conventional products, that's a lot of plastic. you know, and if your cycle is anywhere between like 3 to 7 days, like that's a lot of product. And so another thing that I value in my life and in our life and our home life is sustainability. And organic cotton is a lot more sustainable because it's natural. It's natural fibers. It can go back into the earth, you know, as long as it's being processed in the right way. Unfortunately, a lot of it does go to the landfills and doesn't break down as well. But if you're using reusable products, like that's a really environmentally safe option for many people, and it saves you money. Like, who doesn't want to do that? So I keep both products on hand just personally. Excuse me. One, to save money, but also because I love being able to like provide extra pads and tampons to like family members or friends or wherever I'm at. I just want to make sure like I'm covered for one, or if I'm going on a trip that I'm covered. So I literally have them stocked everywhere. So
Okay, here's some cool math.
okay,
And then I'll explain the Certified B
okay,
core company.
okay.
So on average, a woman will have a period every 28 days. Mm-hmm. So if we take 28 days and divide that from 365 for a year, mm-hmm. that comes out to about 13.
Oh, yeah.
And then we multiply 13 periods by an average of what, 5 days?
5, yeah.
We'll say
we'll
5 days.
Do 4. 4
We'll say
would be
4
a
days.
good. Mm-hmm.
So that's 52 days you're on your period per year. Of course, these are general numbers.
Yeah.
Very subjective.
Give or take.
And so, I don't know how many tampons or anything people use per day. It depends on their flow, I suppose.
It does.
What do you think? How many
So,
tampons?
It really does depend on someone's flow.
Would 3 be a reasonable number to just go off of?
Okay, so here's some more marketing. So the pads and tampons will say can hold like roughly 12 hours worth.
Okay.
So
that would be
like
2.
Yeah.
Technically.
But really, most women change their pad or tampon every time they go to the restroom.
Okay.
You know, just to keep things like clean and sanitary, which, by the way, is something I recommend. So using that 12-hour protection, that's okay, you know, for like at night, you know, when you're sleeping, but not throughout the day. Like, you want to make sure you change those pads and tampons just because of flow. You want to make sure your flow is good and you're getting a lot of breathability. You want to make sure that it's not being saturated or too warm and moist down there, because that will cause a lot of problems too.
So maybe like times 4.
Yeah, something like that.
I'll just do 4. Times 4. That's 208 tampons a year. Again, rough number. But hey, that's a lot of...
that's one woman too.
That's one woman, and you know, my point was going to be, if you're using something like Tampax, I have never even done research on Tampax. Let me just say general. Toxic, tampon or pad, that is a lot of BPA going inside of you, or metals, or any other endocrine disruptors that are inside that pad or material, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And the vaginal wall, like the...
Very absorbent.
Super, super absorbent.
Like, it's in there.
Yeah, like so like we have our skin like that we see. Okay, so it's absorbent, you know, like you can. That's why putting certain products on your body is also important to take note of. But it's absorbent. But down there, it's just like cells thick. Like, this is like millions of cells thick.
That's like really soft tissue.
Super soft, super absorbent. Like, that's why you don't want to put anything crazy down there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good point. And before you mention that, so you said 13 periods. A woman, that was going to be one of my next notes here.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I was like thinking just like you.
Just like me. So, a woman... average cycles, like how many they have per year, is 13. You know, like we associate having a period every month, but there's going to be at least 1 month where you have a cycle twice in a month. And you think, oh my God, I started early. This is, you know, and no, that's not the case. Like, the average is 28 days. And, you know, give or take depending on a woman's cycle, but you can have more, you could have less. It just really depends. But that is following the moon cycle.
Yeah.
Like the full moon, crescent moon. Like, I think that's what's super, super cool about it.
And there were supposed to be 13 months as well, not 12.
That is true. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
you
totally.
know, 12 calendar months is what's the norm. But I can't remember, there was a book we read. It was a Native American book, and basically being connected to being more spiritual and having certain rituals be done at certain times out of the year, you know, like summer solstice and winter solstice. Like there's all of these like things that happen throughout the year. Well, there was a 13th month associated with that, but it was taken away. And that's a whole other conversation too.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
I've listened to some podcasts, and a couple of my books that I have read mention that and why 13 is like a sacred number.
4 in numerology. That'd be 4, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, I know 4 is also a pretty sacred number. There's a lot of 4s. There's 4 a lot of things.
Yeah, and there's 4 phases of the cycle.
Yeah.
So there's just all of these coincidences. Well, I don't think they're coincidences. Like, to me, it's just like making sense.
Yeah,
totally. The more I learn about it, it's like, oh, why are we like ignoring these like sacred numbers and cycles and seasons? And so for a woman, like, it's really hard to live on like the typical
the new time
patriarchal you know, lifestyle, like the wake up, you know, work your 8 to 5 and just like hustle and bustle and not get enough sleep, and like that just causes a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So that's kind of getting off topic for, you know, another podcast there, but
yeah.
So I wanted to mention the reason why I mentioned like why women use 9,000 to 10,000 tampons in their lifetime. Like, that's a lot of tampons, right? Mm-hmm. So again, going back to sustainability, but also very safe products.
Oh yeah, sustainability. That's a lot of products.
Yeah, that's a lot. It saves you so much money and whatnot. So period underwear are a fantastic way to, one, keep your vulva and your vagina safe because you're not inserting anything. And 2, it's sustainable. You know, it's not only good for you, but it's good for the planet as well. And then 3, financially, like, you save a lot of money if you use period or reusable period products. So that's a fantastic option for people who don't necessarily want to use tampons. So I highly recommend doing your research again. I can provide a few options, but you really want to make sure that you're buying, again, good quality. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be using a lot of synthetic. And some period products want you to just hand wash because there's certain materials that are on the outside that don't necessarily touch your vulva, but there's still synthetic fibers to be able to make them leak proof. So there's a lot of concern about, well, I don't want to leak and whatnot. So these products have to contain at least something, but the part that touches you is either made out of organic cotton or it's made out of like organic bamboo, which are much, much safer options than like having synthetic. So there's a lot of period products out there that do use synthetic on both sides. So you just want to make sure that you do your research when you buy them, that you're buying one that has organic cotton or bamboo. Yeah. And then another product is, so we just discussed the underwear, is reusable pads.
Wait, I need to say what a B Corp is.
Oh.
Or else I'm going to get crazy.
You're going to get crazy. You just got to get it out there.
This out here.
Okay.
Well, plus, this is important for all the products you're going to mention. Because
yeah.
The companies that are certified B Corp is a for-profit, and it is a company that has met high standards for social and environmental performance. Mm-hmm. That is what Google AI Overview says. So, accountability and transparency are a part of that. Which we were talking about earlier too. So finding a company that is certified B Corp in any product that you're buying is a good thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that because where your dollar goes, you know, the more you can actually make a difference in this world. So
Yeah.
I believe that with food. I believe that with products. Like, it's just where you spend your money. Even I'm okay with spending a little bit extra on certain products if I know that they are of, you know, good standing. You know, their integrity's out there, they're transparent, they're just overall great companies. So I don't mind that, especially if it's reusable products. I'm like, yes, give me that one.
Give me that.
Yep. And okay, so
Anyways,
going back to the pads. Again, just like the period underwear, like you just want to make sure that your period reusable pads are high quality, you know, just going back to that way. So these ones are perfect for people who don't necessarily want to wear period underwear all day, especially on like your heavy day. Like that's a good amount of blood. And I know from experience, first using period underwear and period pad or reusable period pads, is I tested it out at home. How long does it work for me? You know, like how long can I wear this without feeling uncomfortable? And for me personally, I felt that period underwear worked well for me at home. If I knew I wasn't going anywhere and I didn't have to use products and I can maybe switch my underwear halfway through the day if I wanted to, super easy. And you just wash it. You know, you just put it in the washer and you're good to go that way. And then for reusable period pads, I also have experimented with this too, is if I am feeling like I want to use those products in public, so like if I have meetings or if I'm going to work, you know, I'm just kind of running around, and I can still use and change my pad throughout the day. There's typically a wet bag is what it's called that comes with your period pads. Sometimes you have to buy them separately, or you can just use whatever bag that you like, and then you just replace it halfway, you know, through the day or however makes you comfortable using reusable pads in public. But the wet bag, that's what that's for, is so you can put your reusable pads in that bag. And then another product, let's get into a medical grade silicone safe menstrual cups.
Ooh, yes, the silicone menstrual cups.
Yes.
This is one you have not experimented with.
Yes. Right? Yep. I have never experimented with this one personally, just because with my history of having such painful menstrual cramps, like for me, sticking anything up there was just excruciating. I couldn't do it. It just wasn't for me. It never appealed to me. However, it's a really great product for women who don't necessarily want to go the tampon route. Maybe there's a lot of women who are just absolutely disgusted, you know, with pads, but I would actually, in a coaching session, I would actually look into that. Why do you think that's disgusting? Like, why do you have so much hate or disgust or whatever it happens to be towards your cycle? So anyways, that's a side note there, because I like to dive into those sorts of things.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, a silicone cup is just a great option, and there's also different sizes too, depending on your flow. So some women, first day, actually most women, the first day is the heaviest day. So you want to use
a big cup.
The big cup.
Big cup.
Yeah, the very, very big one. No, they're not that big.
You can't use, this isn't equivalent to like a kitchen cup either, all you men, if there's men listening. You can't just
probably like
you
an
just
ounce
can't
or
go
two.
grab any cups.
No.
This is a special cup.
It is a special cup. Yeah, because, so again, I have not experimented with silicone cups at all, but there's a lot of women who I follow on social media who actually embrace their menstrual cycle. They embrace their bleed, which I think is absolutely beautiful. It's just something that I haven't done, just because a silicone cup is not for me necessarily, but anyways, they use their blood for all different kinds of rituals. If you're trying to heal your cycle, if you're trying to connect to your cycle, connect to your fertility, like it can be a really spiritual time.
Mm-hmm.
So
did I just hear some women get freaked out?
Probably. But honestly, again, that would be something that I would just talk to my clients about in our sessions. Like, why, is there resistance to it? Why is there difficulty talking about menstrual cycles in general? Like,
yeah, if you want to paint with your blood, freaking do it.
There's women who do that. They create art. Yeah, they literally create like absolutely beautiful art with their blood. So it's one of those things where they're just honoring their cycle and what it does, and it can be really beautiful. Like, women are creators in this universe. Like, we literally have a portal in between our legs, between life and death. And it's, you can just have this really deep connection to your body in that way. And for some listeners, some women, some men might even be like, WTF are you guys talking about? Like, what is happening?
This is not the product show I signed up to listen to. Talking about portals between your legs and painting with blood.
Yeah.
This is stuff society doesn't talk about.
Yeah. And even though I've never experimented with it, but maybe one day, maybe I go to a retreat. I know there's women's retreats to honor the body, but it's just something that I haven't experimented with. But I'm not grossed out by it by any means.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's just a lot of unknowns when it comes to the woman's menstrual cycle. Like, there used to be a lot of honor that was very shameful for women in this area. You weren't able to discuss it. And there's a lot of shame placed around women, especially way back in the day. And even still now, like, there's just, unfortunately, a lot of people who are like, that's disgusting. Like, you're gross. Like, just because you bleed as a woman doesn't mean that your body's disgusting in any way.
Yeah, if it was disgusting, people would not discuss it. That's some poetry slam for you right there.
Wow. I'm like, I don't even know what to say to that. I thought you were going to do some Eminem rapping.
No, but I will let him use that line if he wants.
So, anyways, I feel like I keep steering us back to the conversation today. Okay, so we talked a lot about all different kinds of things, but the biggest takeaways in this conversation is just make sure that you have high quality products, that you're, making sure that you're taking care of your vulva and your vagina. And you really don't have to do much. Like I said, you don't have to do much. You just want to make sure that you're bleeding every month. Like, that's important. That's a whole nother conversation too that I can get into. If you don't bleed, there's some issues going on there. Or if you have birth control, that's causing you to no longer bleed. So I do help women get off birth control because there's a whole process. You don't want to just go all willy-nilly and getting off birth control and having a bunch of horrible symptoms because you did not prepare your body to get off of it. It's a hormonal disruption when that happens. So many things.
Quick note before you transition.
Okay.
For all you men out there, again, I'm not sure there's many probably listening to this episode, but just in case, when your woman sends you out to the store to grab her some chocolate and products, you now know what to get her. Better organic cotton products instead of plastic Tampax.
That is true. It's just as equally important for a man to know the women's cycle and what to get. I see all those funny videos about the men, being sent to the grocery store
and they're sweating.
And they're like, oh my God, what do I do? And they accidentally buy like
a kitchen cup.
No, I don't think that's the case. Maybe they buy like the biggest pad out there when all you really need is just like a light day.
Like a diaper.
Yeah.
An adult diaper.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so important, especially for dads who have daughters too.
I mean, a diaper would work technically, right?
It would work, but that's a whole
I know it's
lot
not what we're going for, but I'm just saying.
That's uncomfortable. Like, most women wear leggings, and you would definitely be seeing that.
Could you imagine leggings over a diaper?
It would look like a baby walking around, and you can see their diaper.
Who needs butt implants when you can just throw a diaper on?
Yeah, we don't need that, babe. We don't need that. So, anyways, yeah, some of the biggest takeaways. I feel like I'm everywhere with this podcast, but biggest takeaways: get yourself some high quality products, and make sure you take care of your vulva and your vagina with water. You don't need to be using soap. 3, just understand that there's so many products out there that have very skilled marketers, and you want to do your research on these products. And 4, look for B corporations. That will make it so much easier. Instead of trying to sift away, like, does Tampax have this? Just already know that they do carry all the most chemical ridden products. 5, start talking about it. Like, if you have issues, any sort of irregularities, get some help, because it's not normal to have a ton of pain. It's not normal to go without your period, like if you're not on birth control, and if you just miss it, that's not normal. Just know to ask people, ask me questions. If you have, any sort of concerns, I would love to help you with that.
Yeah, you can actually comment on this podcast, depending on the platform, I guess. Mm-hmm. Or you can message us, or her, not us. Message Taylor.
Yeah. I would love to help you through any sort of issues that you may feel like you have. Maybe you want to discuss, some of the things of like, well, why am I disgusted? Is that like a thing, So one of my goals is to help women create harmony within themselves. And a part of that is helping them understand their connection to their body. And that means their menstrual cycle. So if you need help with that, message me. Comment on this video or podcast.
Throw your email out.
So my email is Taylor, Taylor, at ekhohealth.com. And Echo is EKHO health.com.
Excellent.
And my Instagram is Taylor J. Blakely. And you want to make sure Blakely is spelled Blakley. But yeah, that's my Instagram. We also have our Instagram for Ekho Health, and that's echo.health on Instagram. So if you want to look at any of our stuff there, by all means.
Yeah, you got resources. Mm-hmm. And share this podcast with your everyone.
Yep. Especially teenagers.
Yeah,
Send it to teenagers. They need to know these things. And they might get to the end of this podcast and be a little weirded out, but at least they're exposed to it now, that they don't have to feel any sort of shame around their cycle.
Yeah, there's no shame.
No shame
If
whatsoever.
you want to paint with your blood, you can. There's no shame.
Go for it. Just do it.
If you want to use a silicone cup, you can do that.
Yeah, you could. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast today. We're going to be talking more about women's health, men's health. We're going to be talking about
men do have a silicone cup as well.
What are you talking about? Oh my gosh. Maybe the next podcast I'll kick him out of the room so I can talk in peace. Okay. Well, have a good day, everyone. Good night, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.
See you later, Gator.